Today, I'm going to break down Succession Season 2, Episode 9. Originally, I was going to combine 9 and 10, but I decided with 10 being the finale, I had enough notes on that to do a more extensive breakdown because I think it's probably the best done, most well-done episode of the season. And Episode 9 is sort of setting up for that, or that's primarily the goal of it, to move the story along. So it doesn't require much of a breakdown. So episode 9 begins with Logan going through the park, and he's heading to what looks like a brownstone to go watch there's a 60 Minutes style expose about Waystar Royco and what has been going on in the cruise ship division. So it's basically a former executive has come out. Logan thinks he's being paid to speak out. And what this leads to is there's a demand for congressional testimony. So the Senate hauls the Roy family down to Washington, D.C. They basically say, okay, who are we going to pin this on? Because people up at that level are not going to take responsibility. That's the last thing they're going to do. And so they say, well, Bill, who used to help run the division and who actually was the person who helped Tom destroy the documents because Tom was placed in a management of parks or a position of executive position in the parks division, which also involved cruise ships. He was the one who said to Tom, I don't know how much you want to know about this, but here's all these documents and you can read them or not, but you should probably get rid of them. And so they say, well, we'll just pin it on Bill. And they get to DC and Bill is one of the first guys who sees them in the Senate building. And he's all happy to see them. Hey, I'm here to cheer you on. And they're clearly uncomfortable at the idea of him being there because they're about to consider throwing him under the bus. It's a little suspicious because he's so happy. I think it's more that he's there to say, hey, I am still a real person. I still exist. Don't screw me over here. And I think it's sort of to intimidate more so than to cheer them on, because why the hell would you cheer them on? Because he's not really involved anymore. There's a funny moment here, which implies that there's sort of a cat and mouse game going on with Congress and with Waystar Royco, specifically with Logan. Because Bill comes up and it's Tom, Shiv, and Gerri who are standing together, and he doesn't seem to address Shiv. He just refers to Tom and Gerri, and he does it a couple times. And then when they're sitting together at the actual testimony, it's Tom and Gerri together. So I think it's a sort of a play on cat and mouse. I could be wrong, but it's an interesting idea to put those two together because they don't really ever communicate. So I don't know. You'd want people who are sort of simpatico to be testifying because they can play on each other's strengths and weaknesses. That's what I would logically do, and I'm sure that's what people try to do when they have to do that, when they have to go before Congress. But basically, Gil, who's Shiv's boss, or old boss, he seems to be the chair of this committee, or at least he's a prominent senator on the committee that's investigating them. And he just tears Tom to shreds, like to the point that he's asking Tom if he knows Greg, who's sitting not far behind him. And Tom says, oh, I don't know him. And then very quickly says, oh, yeah, I know that guy. So he's just fumbling this way and that way, and he's humiliated and thinks the family threw him to the wolves when they kind of did, but also he did extremely poorly. He would have been better off just saying he didn't know anything rather than saying, yes, I do, no, I don't know this, about the same thing within 30 seconds. So he kind of gets eaten alive. At the same time, Logan doesn't want to have to deal with all of this stuff that being a public company executive involves. Like talking to the press, feeling obligated to provide information to the public. He'd rather be private, like sort of like what Michael Dell did. He's like, I just don't need to do these quarterly filings anymore. It's a headache, and I can run a profitable business privately. So that's a similar real world scenario that probably had something to do with it. It's probably not the only example of that. So anyway, because he wants to go private, he sends Roman to go talk to his friend who is a business mogul, more of an investor from Turkey. And so they go to, or at least he seems to be involved with Turkey. Maybe he's American, but his family there. So they go and talk, and things are going very well. The Turkish money's interested in helping Waystar Royco go private. I don't know why they chose Turkey, because that's not really, it's a prominent country, of course, but it's not, you don't really hear about like massive Turkish investment. You hear about Saudi investment, you hear about investment from the UAE, you hear about investment from Israel. So if you're going to go to that sort of Middle East, Central Asia area, there are other countries. So I don't know if there's some play on that I'm unaware of, like some Ottoman theme, who knows. But that didn't make very much sense to me. But anyway, what happens is Roman gets held hostage. The business deal's going fine, and all of a sudden all these intelligence-looking guys come in and say, yeah, everything's fine, but you got to come with us. And they are held hostage, and they don't really know what the hell's going on. And Roman's actually pretty calm in this scenario. He doesn't ever take anything way too seriously, and that apparently includes his own life. But even his security guards and help are totally baffled by it and pretty terrified. One says he's having a panic attack, but he's trying to hide it, while Roman's just like, yeah, I just want to get out of here. So the dynamic there is he's being held hostage. Their way out is being held hostage, this private money, while the family is also in DC being held hostage by Congress in a sense. So that's basically the whole family is caught up in this episode. And then later on in the episode, right towards the end, Logan says, we need a blood sacrifice. In other words, I'm not going to go before Congress and end up looking like a total disaster here. So someone's going to be the sacrifice. And who does he choose? He chooses Kendall. Kendall, if you remember, at the end of season 1, there's a scene with a black sheep in England. I said that was likely a reference to him because he's sort of become that black sheep who's turned on his father at times. And this is a bit of payback for that. And so that's going to take place in episode 10. But also in this one, Rhea says, I cannot be involved with this. I'm not going to be the CEO. She tells Logan that he's bottomless. I think that's such a great line because there is no depth to which he will not go to win. There's nothing he won't stoop to get one over on somebody. And she realizes that. And the great thing there is her character never fit. It's not an insult to the actress. It was such a transparent way to try and move part of the story along. It never made sense. Him having an affair, you could maybe picture that, but having an affair with your former competitor while you have a very strong relationship with your wife, and for a guy who's all business all the time, allowing it to, get in the way of major business deals, like almost tanking the company, it just doesn't fit his character, and this is sometimes where shows go wrong. But thankfully, they got rid of that character, and that storyline seems to be behind us. I'm now into season 3, and it hasn't reared its head yet. But a good episode in the sense that it leads up to episode 10. Nothing way too consequential here. Again, you're kind of ending some of these storylines so you can gear up to the finale where some more exciting stuff is going to happen. Finale is really great visually, really great symbolically. It takes place on a yacht in the Mediterranean, or at least a large part of it does. So I'm excited to do that one. And that will be the next episode. If you're watching on Instagram, please follow. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. That goes a long way. If you're watching on my website, please sign up for our email list. We don't bombard you with emails, but we will notify you if there's something new coming out that we think subscribers will like. Thank you for watching.